Hello, kindergartners and first graders. I'm super excited about this project. I wonder if some of you recognize this artwork. You might even recognize the name of the artist. This is a Kandinsky, okay? Kandinsky was a lovely artist who was very famous and also really well known for this circle within circle within circle pattern on one of his really famous paintings. So we are going to work on a watercolor using him as our inspiration. So let's first begin with your materials, okay? And remember, there's always alternatives. If you don't have something, you replace it with something else that will do the job for you, okay? So you want a rectangular piece of paper, standard size. If you're gonna use watercolor, it needs to be a little bit thicker, so printer paper would not go well, so you could do marker or color pencils or crayons if you're doing printer paper. But if you have thicker paper and you have watercolor, then that's great. So if you're doing watercolor, you would want a watercolor palette, you want a water container and some brushes or a paintbrush, maybe a small paintbrush and something slightly bigger. And you'll need a ruler, a pencil, and eraser. And then you're gonna need a variety of things that can create circles for you. So for example, this is a small pail that I have. You can see based on the size of my hand, like how small it is. I'm gonna use this as one of my circles. This is a tennis ball container lid. So I'm gonna use that as one of my circles. And if you look at it, you can see how this is bigger than this one. And then the next thing I'm using this cap for another kind of paint that I have. And you see how that one's a little bit smaller than that one. And finally, I'm gonna use this little tiny glue bottle, and I'm gonna use the bottom base of that glue bottle, and you can see that that circle down there is a little smaller than this one. So you definitely want to find 4 circular type things that go from larger to smaller, but that are not any bigger than, like that size there, okay? All right, so let's get started. So on your paper, okay, you're gonna want to fold your paper. So you have it like this. This is called landscape view. And you're gonna fold it in half like this, okay? Now, in order to fold something in half perfectly, you have to bring your edges together just right, okay? So you slide it until those 2 edges are meeting just right, and you can use your hands like this to make sure they're meeting, okay? So you basically want to split that paper lengthwise like this, right down the middle, okay? So you end up with a piece of paper that has this big crease in it, okay? Then, boys and girls, what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold your paper this way as well. So now we have it in what's called portrait view, and we're gonna fold it like this. Same thing though, we want it to be perfectly meeting on the sides over here. So then what you end up with is you have this fold, right? And then you have this fold also, right? So I think you guys call it hot dog and hamburger, but it's a vertical and a horizontal fold. So let's get it back into its half folded section like this. The next thing you're going to do is you're gonna fold this area, this rectangle that you've created by folding it in half. You're going to fold it like this one more time on top of itself, like that. So remember though that for this last part, you're not gonna go here with the long side and go like that, right? It's gonna be this way, sort of the hamburger fold, and then the hamburger fold is folded one more time on itself, so that then when you open this up, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections, okay? That's how you folded it. Now, I realize that the folding could be a little bit tricky, but the beauty of, even if it's hard, is that you can start the video again, and go back and take it slow and do it step by step. And literally, when I'm trying to teach myself something new, boys and girls, I stop and I pause and I go back again and I look at it again, and then I play again, and then I go back again. So just like you are learning new things, I'm learning new things all the time too, and I just have to slow down and take my time, and then if I really need help, I'll ask for help. But I really want you to try first, okay? So remember, hot dog fold, hamburger fold. Once it's in the hamburger fold, you fold it one more time into a hot dog fold again. And then you end up with these pieces, okay? All right, so now you have these sections, right? Now that you have these sections, you want to draw lines with your ruler on those creases, those areas that were folded on that now bend really nicely because you folded them. That is where your lines are going to go. They're going to go in exactly the same place where there's already a fold from the previous step. So fold, and then here's another fold right here, as you can see. And so I'm going to draw a line there. So those creases are my guides. They're already there, and all I have to do is create my line right on top of that crease that's already there from my fold, okay? So then I'm gonna go lengthwise down the middle, and when you do this, you gotta hold that ruler down nice and hard so it doesn't slide while you're drawing, okay? So we have 8 sections now. Some of you in your classrooms are learning how to create a 10 frame. Well, think about this as an 8 frame, okay? When you're setting it up for like math stuff, think about this as an 8 frame. Instead of having 4 lines in your rectangle to create 10 spaces, we put 1, 2, 3 lines, which then create the 4 sections on top and 4 sections on bottom. All right, once you are done with that, you can take your largest circle. Now, keep in mind that you can't have a circle that is bigger than the space that you're working within, okay? So the top of my pail is definitely too big for here, but the bottom of my pail is the right size. So I'm gonna put my pail down, and again, you're gonna hold it nice and tight so that it doesn't slip or slide. And you have to go around it, you know, like you go this way until you're uncomfortable, and then you come around the other side and you go this way, okay? So you're gonna wanna do this on all your sections, and you wanna try to stay within the space as much as possible. You can see Ms. Jenkins is going over just a little bit, and that's okay. That's because I couldn't find anything that was just right, but I bet you can. Think about, you know, different cups in your house and what the base of that cup, is it a circle and will it work for you? So you're gonna go through and you're going to do your largest circles first. You're gonna do that all the way through, okay? So let's look over here, for example. Once you have done your largest circle, then you're gonna do your next circle after that. So I'm gonna do one more tennis container here and one more right here. Okay, so you take your time. This would be a good place to pause the video so you can keep going and finish all your circles. So I've already done these down here, but what I'm gonna show you is how I'm going to go to my next shape, my next something that's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller than my first circle. And so I'm gonna go around and trace around this as well so I can get that circle there. And I'm gonna do the same thing on all of them. Okay, same thing on all of them. So you wanna for sure have at least 3 different items that you can trace to create your biggest circle, your second circle, and then your third circle. So you want at least 3 things. But if you happen to find 4 and you can have 4 layers, that's totally fine. If you look at this one here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different little circles, but I also drew some of mine freehand. So you just want to try to find something to trace as you are growing your fine motor skills, okay? So go around. Again, I never try to trace around a whole item all the way because it's very uncomfortable, and then it can slide and mess me up. So I go one way and then I come around the other side. So now you've got all of your pieces, right? And earlier we did the line that goes through here, so let me just do it on this side. You've already done this step. If you remember, we did this a little bit earlier. So don't worry about how fast I'm going because you've already done this. Okay, so now you have your composition, which is your drawing in which you're going to start to add your colors, okay? So everything has to have color. The background, which is the square or the rectangle in the background, and then each layer. And each layer of color should not be, you do not want it to be touching another layer of color, okay? So for example, if you're gonna do orange on something, you would not want to do orange right next to it, okay? So for watercolor, if you're using watercolor, to activate your paint, right, you have to dip your brush in the water and then you have to kind of stir within there, and then you can go ahead and add your first color. Notice, boys and girls, I'm using the tip of my paintbrush to fill in. I'm not pushing it hard like this, okay? Because if I do that, it spreads out and then it just makes like a mess for me. And I'm trying to really be as particular and as detailed as possible. Now, I am going to go ahead and use this orange in lots of places because I can do that, right? Like instead of switching to a new color right away, can't you just add that color in different places again and again? Yes, you can. So I'm basically repeating some sections based on the fact that they are not touching one another. And look how I use my paintbrush neatly and slowly. And again, you can do this with marker or crayons or colored pencils. It's whatever you have, okay? I'm gonna switch now to a new color. So I'm gonna clean my brush out really well, and then I'm going to dry my brush and make sure that all the color has come off my paintbrush. Dip it again, and I'm going to move to a new color. So now I'm gonna go into my pink, and I'm gonna do pink here, and perhaps here. Now keep in mind that if your paint is really, really wet and you paint right next to a really wet blob of watercolor, that this color will bleed into that color, and that's okay if that happens, but that is something that can happen, okay? So let's come over here, and then we can do a layer on this side. And once you see that your color is drying, you go ahead and you add more water and more paint to your brush. You don't just start pushing hard with that paintbrush. Instead, you kind of gently move it around. And when it gets too dry, that's your hint. You need to go ahead and add more color and more water to your paintbrush. All right, then I'm gonna switch to a new color. Now, boys and girls, you don't have to do this jumping around thing that I'm doing. I do that because I think it's kind of a smart way to work, efficiently wise, like so you don't have to clean your brush as much in between colors. But if you wanna clean your brush in between every single color and just do a whole section at one time, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move over to my blue. I'm gonna do blue in here. And then I'm gonna clean my brush because I'm gonna do a whole circle for you guys. And I'm gonna come into my lime green and put lime green on this part. And you see how my brush is getting a little dry? So that means I need more water and a little bit more paint. Because if you have the right amount of water and paint on your brush, it's really liquidy and it's really smooth and glides on easily without being too difficult. All right, I'm gonna clean my brush, dry it off a little bit to make sure the colors come off, add more water again, and this time I'm gonna do this red color on the outside. And look how I'm using my brush, using the tip of my brush to first create that outline. And if I was using marker or color pencil or crayon, I would still do the same thing. I would sort of outline that area first, and then I would go ahead and start laying my color in there. And if you are painting, you want to make sure you have the right sized brush, okay? So it can't be too big, it can't be too tiny either, so it's kind of something in between. All right, so am I done yet? Nope, because I want to add color to my background as well. So I'll come in here and get some of this darker yellow, and then I'm gonna go ahead and outline my rectangle. with the dark yellow and then outline around my circle, trying to be gentle and careful. And you know, if you end up getting a color in a color, it's not the end of the world, okay? If you do and it really doesn't look awesome and it bugs you, you just wait for your paint to dry and then you can add another layer of color on top of that area. But you don't want to do it while it's wet because the paper could tear and it could also just create a muddy mess for you. So there is my first section all painted. So you're gonna do this in all of your areas. I'm gonna stop now, but you're gonna keep going, and you can see here a finished one that I showed you at the beginning, and this is what it's gonna look like. Notice that blue is touching orange, and then it's touching yellow, and then it's touching the green, and then there's orange again on the outside here, but it's not touching this orange over here, right? It's just, it's separated. So you want to separate those rings with different colors because that's what adds that really magical sort of pop and that vibrancy that Kandinsky created in his paintings. All right, so that is all for me. Have fun, enjoy yourself. Just, yeah, have a fun time creating magical art pieces, and just post them on Seesaw when you're done, and I will get to see all the magic you create. I love you guys, even though I haven't met you in person yet. Kindergarten, I haven't met you guys yet, but for those that know me, I miss you and I love you. And Kinders, I can't wait to meet you in person, and I can't wait to see what you do. All right, everybody take care. Big hugs and kisses. Love you. Bye.